Synchronicity. It happens all the time. And in this video, I want to talk about a particular set of synchronicities that have been very, very important to me. And be sure to check out the links in the description box. I'll have a couple of older videos available. And one of the videos there will be my most recent video where I talked about the FEMA alert, where I connected it with Mercury. And if you check out the top pinned comment, this person reminded me that Mercury is on top of the Grand Central Station. Notice I have a picture of Jackie Kennedy here. This video is not about Jackie Kennedy, but there's something that happened this year on Jackie Kennedy's birthday that's kind of blew my mind, and it's worth pointing out the entrance that is dedicated to Jackie Kennedy, the Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis Foyer. We'll get to that in a bit. I just don't want it to seem like I'm going off track when I suddenly bring up July 28th. July 28th this year, of course, it's the anniversary of Jackie Kennedy Onassis' birthday, but I also had this big synchronicity involving the word Odyssey. But let me take you back to February of the year 2022. And I made a video all about the number 2, 22, and 222. And February 1st, 2022, I got a text from someone I hadn't talked to in a while. Talked about the band OLP, and I talked about how they have a new album called Spiritual Machines 2. He said, I have mixed feelings. It kind of reminds me of David Bowie. I've gone over some of this in the video I made. I'll leave in the description box. I think I just called the video Tom. But I got that text talking about David Bowie. And right next to me, I had this newspaper, the Boston Herald. I think it was February 1st edition. And in the front page, even though there was much more important news, there was, in big letters, it said Space Oddity. It had something to do with furniture being used to save spaces when people are shoveling snow. But anyway, the point is it said Space Oddity. And of course, it reminded me of the David Bowie song, Space Oddity. It also brought to mind the Jimmy Fallon spoof of that song. He called it Tebowie. It was about Tim Tebow going against the GOAT Tom Brady, and Tebow is praying to Jesus. And Jesus says, I hear that you're playing New England next week. Dude, you're on your own. Brady is too good, and I've got better things to do. But anyway, this text about the David Bowie comparison to Spiritual Machines 2 really kind of set off a set of synchronicities. So here we are the next day. It's February 2nd in the year 2022. Lots of twos there. And I'm at the grocery store, and right near me is this Boston Herald again. It's the local paper where I'm at. And the headline is, Thanks, Tom. It's talking about Tom Brady retiring. And I get this phone call. Again, I'm at the store near the newspaper. I get this phone call telling me that a dear friend of mine, a very dear, I can't even express how much I love and appreciate this person. My friend Tom died on February 2nd, 2022. And I just happened to be near this paper that says, Thanks, Tom. And I had this, my heart was filled with gratitude for my Tom, not Tom Brady. But for some reason, I thought of this Simon and Garfunkel song, The Only Living Boy in New York. The first line of that song is, Tom, get your plane ride on time. And the song it goes out to Art Garfunkel. The duo, Simon and Garfunkel, used to go and play under the name Tom and Jerry. So Garfunkel was Tom, and the song was to Tom. Garfunkel, aka Tom, was leaving the studio. He was leaving Simon alone to finish up the project. Tom was going to go act in a movie called Catch 22. There's more twos there. And by the way, it's a movie about World War II. So I'm looking at this newspaper. Thanks, Tom. I get this phone call about my Tom who died. This song comes to my mind about the farewell to Tom. So I leave the store, just start my car, and then I get a phone call from my brother who had been playing phone tag. And I thought he was going to talk about Tom. He starts talking about this app called Randonautica. He's not into coincidences or anything like that, but he tried out this app that's kind of helps to generate coincidences, I guess. And anyways, after we got off the phone, I told him about Tom and whatnot and this whole thing. Like I said, there's a link in the description to the older video. But I went to look up Randonautica, and it turns out it released. The initial release date was February 22nd in the year 2022. All kinds of twos there. 2/22/2020. And I learn about this app on 2/2/2022. And all this on the day that Tom died. Now, the name Thomas means twin. And of course, the word twin evokes the number 2. And I failed to mention the person that texted me about Spiritual Machines 2 from the day before is actually the grandson of Tom. And again, we're not talking about Tom Brady. We're talking about my dear friend Tom, who died on 2/2/22. It just so happens that Tom Brady was in the news big time that day. Now remember, the day before, the front page of the Boston Herald said Space Oddity. You can look this up. I'm pretty sure you could just say February 1st, 2022, Boston Herald cover. Search that out and you can see this cover about the Space Oddity. And it just so happens that later in the year, 2022, there's a movie that came out called Space Oddity. And without giving too much away, you would think that there's someone named Tom in the movie, maybe the main character, because, Space Oddity is talking about Major Tom. Ground control to Major Tom. Well, in this movie, Space Oddity, that came out in 2022, the main character you see in the middle there, his brother was named Tom, and he died before the events of the movie take place. And they had this obsession with going to space and Mars and whatnot. But I'll say that again, his brother Tom died. So anyway, that was about the movie Space Oddity. And of course we could connect this to 2001 A Space Odyssey. But I really don't have the time for that. I want to get into this other sync that happened earlier this year, July 28th, 2023. This big sync with the word Odyssey. Actually, first, we'll talk about a Simpsons episode, an early Simpson episode. It's like the 3rd episode of the entire series or something. It's called Homer's Odyssey. So I found a few clips off YouTube. Here's some screenshots. The children are on their way to the field trip. Bart and his class, they're going to the nuclear plant where Homer works. Homer's the father. And you can see behind him there's these twin girls. Their father also works at the plant. The teacher, Bart's up to making some noise and stuff, and the teacher says, "Bart Simpson, sit down. Enough of your tomfoolery." Of course, tomfoolery is a thing that people say, or they used to say it more often. But it's just funny that behind Bart is these twins, and they're conspiring to get Bart in trouble. So they give him a surprise kiss, and he just freaks out. He just yells. The teacher takes that as more tomfoolery. She says, "That's it, Bart. Why can't you be more like..." And then the girls raise their hand. They wanted Bart to be more like the twins there. So again, the name Thomas means twin. And I had this big sync with my Tom Brady, Tom, get your plane right on time, and Major Tom and all this. And then how this connects with the twins in the Homer's Odyssey episode. So they get to the power plant. You can see Bart's next to the twins there. And he just yells down, "Hey, there's my dad. Hey, Dad, yo, Homer." He distracts his father, says, "Hi, boy," and then crashes into some machinery. Causes some pretty significant destruction at the plant. Causes this alert to go off. And then a supervisor, boss of some kind, says, "I might have known it was you. I don't want to hear about it. You're fired." Then he looks up and says, "Oh, hi, girls." Apparently he's the father of these twins that fires Bart's father, Homer, kicking off Homer's Odyssey. He gets obsessed with safety and signs. He wants to make sure everybody is aware of the signs. And speaking of signs, I saw this, I experienced this synchronicity on July 28th this year that I took as a sign, really. So I'm subscribed to this YouTube channel called the Quantum Leap Podcast, and I get this recommendation of a video that was uploaded on July 28th. It's about the Quantum Leap novel Odyssey. And I've been slow binging the pre-Superman show Smallville, and that day I caught up to an episode called Odyssey, the same day that I got this recommendation for the Quantum Leap podcast episode Odyssey. And you can believe me or you cannot believe me, but this is what really blew my mind. I was talking to a few people about this sync, and then the very next day, early, I went out to my car, and just outside my car, near my driver door, there was an invoice. I'd like to show you the entire piece of paper, but it has numbers on it that probably identify a certain person. I don't want any internet sleuths to go reach out to this person or whatever. But yeah, I find this Fix Finder report right next to my car, dated for July 28th. The next day I find it next to my car on the ground, and it's for a 2008 Honda Odyssey. And it just so happens that that episode of Smallville, the Odyssey episode, aired in the year 2008. And just to avoid confusion, I'm not sure what date that Smallville episode came out. I know it was the year 2008, just like that 2008 Honda Odyssey paper I found. But we're talking about July 28th because the Quantum Leap podcast recommended this, that they uploaded this video about the Odyssey. And like I said, it's happens to be Jackie Kennedy Onassis' birthday. Remember, she had that dedication in the entrance of Grand Central Station. And above that, again, that's the statue of Mercury. But again, there's links in the description box. The person left me that comment about the statue of Mercury. And in this video, I really don't have time to really go over it again, but in that first video I did back in February 2nd, 2022, it talked about the movie 222. And that movie had to do with, I guess it was an air traffic control or something. And this guy had a bit of a breakdown, and he was experiencing these synchronicities. And the number 222, the climax of that movie, was in Grand Central Station at the time 222. And when I told my girlfriend all of these synchronicities, 222 and all this, she reminded me that Tom song, Simon and Garfunkel, "The Only Living Boy in New York," starts out, "Tom, get your plane right on time." That song was used to brilliant effect at the end of a series called Alphas, the very end, season 2.